Hey folks, hot off the press. I'm sure you've already heard by now because media runs rampant and it runs fast, right? Well, the co-founder of Cards Against Humanity has just been accused of using the N-word or wanting to put the N-word in the slide deck or in the card deck that goes along with the game. Well, many of you like the game as much as I do, or maybe you don't, I don't know. But just know that it's a very popular game and many of us actually find pleasure in playing it. I know I do with my family, with my friends and my siblings, but now, am I going to rethink it? Possibly so. And you know why? Because racism is a zero tolerance policy. For me personally, it crosses my values. It should cross your values, as is sexism. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes who is facing racial bias. Think about how they feel. Have compassion. Empathize. Because in the workplace, this continues to be an issue for years to come. It's been an issue for decades. Now it's an issue more so ever today. So why are these co-founders and CEOs being so insensitive? It's their emotions. Just 2 weeks ago, the CEO of CrossFit was asked to step down. Well, he had to resign for some of the comments that he made on the George Floyd case. He was being very insensitive. And although he may have not been coming from a bad place in terms of focusing, telling his employees to focus on business, just know that it was insensitive of him to actually talk about these types of issues and ask his employees to think otherwise. No, nobody's going to think otherwise, because unless you faced racism and racial bias, you will never know what it feels like to be called a name, to be labeled as something. I will tell you, I was labeled as a terrorist. I had a supervisor who once called me a terrorist, and effectively I gave in my resignation. Why? Because I went to HR, and guess what? They told me to suck it up. I'm not going to suck it up. I don't have to work for you. Was I hurting financially? Of course I was, but I bounced back. You know why? Because I have a personal value. And if a company is not going to do something about it, then guess what? That's not the right fit for me. But for managers and CEOs, all of y'all who are involved in making these powerful decisions, make racial bias, make equal pay, make sexual bias your priorities to combat. Why? Because you're going to lose the talent. You're going to lose your workforce. And more importantly, don't you have values that you bring to work every day? Each of us brings these values. Each of us are leaders in our own ways. But we are looking up to you to lead. So what are you doing about it? Right? That's what an employee was just telling me recently. What is my CEO going to do about this type of behavior that runs rampant in an organization that refuses to acknowledge that there are issues that are around racial bias? Well, CEOs, guess what? Hire a PR firm. That's the best thing you can do. Hire an ombudsman or hire an alternative dispute resolution person, a conflict resolution person who can tell you how to message, who can guide you on what to say, and they can also guide you on what not to say. Why? Because at the end of the day, when you say racist things, when you say sexist, when you make sexist comments, you're putting your entire workforce in jeopardy. You're putting your entire chain of stores, your franchises in jeopardy, and it's affecting a lot of lives and a lot of livelihoods. So what are y'all gonna do? Be smart about what y'all do when it comes to addressing these types of issues. You need to hire someone who has an expertise in conflict resolution to handle these sensitive matters, such as racial bias, sexual bias, sexism, and sexual discrimination, as well as toxic workplace environments. Anyways, I will thank you all for joining. Take care.